Hello, everybody, and thank you for joining. Welcome to another episode on the 0%. I have with me today my great executive assistant, Miss Nancy. Thank you for joining me today. How are you?
I'm doing well, thank you.
Doing good. Thank you. Thank you. Everybody, this is the brains behind everything in the office. So all questions that come in, it's first being directed to her and then routed to me. So I want to say thank you for all of the hard work that you're doing here with this organization. It does not go unnoticed. Today, we just wanted to go over some questions that we have been receiving from you guys. There is no class tomorrow, so we're going to answer most of these questions here and now. She has some questions, I have some questions to be answered, and this is supposedly supposed to help you guys in your process. The 0% is all about getting you to that 0% tax bracket. There's questions in regards to state taxes, IRS taxes, debt collectors, what have you. This is going to answer some of those questions that you have on the process. As always, go to patreon.com/the 0% and begin entering into either one of the tiers. So Nancy, let's start off with you. I know you're getting a lot of calls from our 888 number. There's a lot of people contacting you via text, via TikTok, whatever I have going out there in social media. But let's start with some of the questions that you have, and we'll try to answer those.
Okay, so a lot of these are general questions that I do get on a daily basis, but it's people that are coming in that don't have experience and don't know really what the steps are, what it takes to establish their trust. So a couple people have asked, how long does the process take when I start the class? How long will it take me to establish this trust?
We have seen from people that enroll, you have two choices. Either you can do the a la carte, which is start at the freshman. There are a series of videos there with the templates attached. Once you're done with those assignments, you go into sophomore, then to junior, then to senior, and so on and so on. Or you can binge watch like Netflix and click on the complete zero tax liability tier and have access to everything. You can jump from senior, you can jump back to freshman and see everything that is there to offer. It usually takes, for someone who jumps into the a la carte section, we've seen 6 months. When someone jumps into the complete tier, 3 months or less. So it all depends on your time frame as to how long you can dedicate to this information. Now, there are those that have no time to do this. They have a busy life, they're high-end entrepreneurs, or you may just have 2 jobs as an employee. That's where you have a third option where you can hire us to do that. We become the contractee and you are the contractor. There is a set fee for that. If you want to understand what that entails and how to do that, to get this thing done within 6 months or less, please contact Nancy, 888-899-2262, and we'll get you additional information on how you can get started. All right. Next question. What do we got?
How do I choose my name of nobility, and what's the difference? Is the name of nobility and the spiritual name the same thing?
Title of nobility and spiritual name is the same thing. It just depends on your walk of faith and what you want to refer to it as. Title of nobility is something that in today's modern society we don't really use today, but it did exist at one point and is still in use. Back in the day, we had the dukes, we had the counts with the viscounts. We've had many different titles of nobility such as that. If you were to go online and search titles, that's plural, titles of nobility, and what I want you to select is the first link, which is Wikipedia. Go in there and find a title of nobility that is corresponding with your heritage. Okay, so for me, I'm Californian, and my family allegedly has come from the country of Africa, but we know that's not true. We are either swarthy or tawny, depending on our skin color. So back in the day, we had the title Moors, Aboriginal Moors. And so there are specific titles of nobility that is associated with the Moors, such as the Beys, Alis, the Els, the Meleks, Melchizedeks, the Pharaohs. All of those are different titles. What you want to do is select one of those names and replace your last name, because that is going to take away this juristic person, so to speak, that is on your driver's license, your social security card, and your birth certificate. That name is already within the United States system. And if you want to become a true national and get away from it, you're going to start doing business in that name as a legitimate business account. It's going to have its own EIN number, and it will be associated as an unincorporated association that your trust controls. Your social, we're going to leave that alone. We're going to walk away from it. We're going to build business credit in this new name. And to pick that name, you need a title of nobility. That is how they used to do it in the days of old. That is how the British do it today. And there's no reason why you can't. That's a really good question.
So do we have to legally change our name to our title of nobility to operate at that level?
I would go through the process of changing your name with the court, getting a court decree, but I would not take that new name and add it to the social by going down to the Social Security Administration or updating that name on my birth certificate. I would not do that. What you want to do with that decree that you get from the court is use it to update your existing passport information, or if you don't have a passport, you can still use it to apply using the DS-11 passport form. And this time it will allow you not to use any social security number on that form, on that application. It's just going to be zeros all the way across. Why? Because that new name is not a U.S. citizen. The only way it can be a 14th Amendment U.S. citizen is if the name is on a birth certificate registered down in the county, or if it's with the Social Security Administration. And you will get a passport as a true national of the country you were born in, one of the 50 countries within the Union, without giving a social security number. So.
Okay. And does 0% have that process available for the court name change? Okay.
Name change is available. That's actually the last thing that I want the students to look at and tackle. I would much rather they do the trust part first, because that information is in the senior course. You will need to use certain documents from the trust to go along with your passport application. If you look at the passport application, there's a section in there that talks about your explanatory statements. So in order to fill out that statement, you need a document that's within the express trust.
Perfect. Okay, so if I have called the IRS to attain my 98 number and use my birth name, is my 98 number still valid?
You have a 50-50 chance of them going back, doing an audit and canceling out that 98 number. So if you've done that, I would much rather you leave that number alone and start over. Start over, give them your title of nobility name. And the only reason that you're going to give that name is because you really don't have a foreign, non-resident alien to be your trustee. If you do have that trustee, then let them make the call for you. Or if they're uncomfortable, you can make the call for them and just use their name. So title of nobility is going to go in there if you don't have a foreign trustee.
Okay, so if I establish that number and it was done with my birth name and I needed to call back to get a new number, do I have to change the trust name the next time I call?
No, you're going to get a new rep. They switch them out, so you can keep the same trust name. You can keep the same country that you use to establish it as a foreign entity. You can use the same mailing address. Everything could be the same.
Okay.
Just no social. You don't have one. Title of nobility name does not have one. and your foreign trustee doesn't have one. So that's actually a good question that I've actually received myself a couple of times.
Yeah, so did I, at least just actually yesterday.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Well, let me go ahead and read one of these questions that I got.
Okay.
Then we'll get back to yours. It says, if I have an LLC and I have not paid taxes in a couple of years, but I seek to continue to increase my business credit, which needs tax returns to qualify, how will this trust process take exemption? I'm sorry, how will this trust process of tax exemption work to my benefit? Good question. Most banks ask for either your bank statements to show proof of income or your tax returns. And we know a lot of companies, if they don't have the bank statements because they were not in operation for at least 2 years, they can fudge the numbers on their tax returns. I do not recommend you do that, but people do that. So the first thing you want to do, we always redo our articles of organization with the Secretary of State. And then we add the Foreign Express Trust as the sole member of that LLC. And you may list yourself as the manager or another company as the manager to keep your name off of the public record to avoid lawsuits and further take advantage of asset protection. Now, this takes care of the annual dues that's required by the Secretary of State every year. You don't want to continue paying that. When it comes to the federal level, you need to perform what's called entity reclassification using IRS Form 8832, which will convert your entity into a separate entity. It's going to convert it from a domestic public entity to a private foreign entity under your Foreign Express Trust. Now, this gives the aid of the Express Trust in order to file taxes for the LLC. So it's in your best interest to explain this to your CPA when it comes to filing taxes. That way they can do this for you. If you seek to continue to use business credit, it's not a problem. It's always good to have public domestic entities working on behalf of the foreign entity. That's exactly what all the major corporations do. Microsoft, Apple, McDonald's, those are all foreign entities owned by trust, and they have corporate CEOs using their public information to get all of the credit for them. That way the liability is on them. So, filing a tax return using this method, it allows you to avoid a tax bill and at the same time show proof of income each year to qualify for a business loan or business credit. Hope that answers your question. So what else do we have?
For me, let's see what we have here. Does my wife have to get a separate trust than mine?
Yes. Husband has their own trust. Wife has her own trust. And if there are children, or even if they're not children, you may have business interests together. That's where a third trust will come into play. And that is also where the marriage covenant, the bylaws of the marriage will reside in that third trust. It's always important to work on getting rid of the marriage license so that the state doesn't have control over the merits of the marriage. A third covenant trust with its own bylaws recorded on every level of government and authenticated the very same way you would a birth certificate will allow you and the wife to go to any non-Hague country or Hague country outside of the United States and have proof that you are married instead of giving jurisdiction to that government using a marriage license. So husband needs his trust for his affairs, wife needs her trust for her affairs, and whatever they're going to share with each other goes into a third trust. That way, you both can institute or initiate some type of fiduciary or liaison to direct funds to the wife's trust and the husband's trust, or even the children's trust that you're utilizing, it's always good to get their trust set up early in life and put life insurance policies on their trust, setting them up for their medical, their dental, all of their life insurance aspects or things that you would definitely use for your children, such as, like I said, medical, dental, college. Anything that they need should come out of life insurance. And when you have a trust holding those life insurance vehicles, you definitely avoid tax at all times. So we're going to have a lot of different trusts if you have a big family.
And can the wife be the trustee, one of the trustees to her husband's trust, vice versa? Can they do business as?
Good question. Well, we teach having a foreign trustee. That is the sole trustee, meaning that's his or her entire job. And we only do that because we're trying to establish one thing, that your trust is completely separate from the United States. It doesn't pass the U.S. court test or the U.S. control test. Now, the wife will create a second trust for herself. It's called the trust enterprise. The trust enterprise handles the banking and administrative aspect of the foreign trust. Remember, your foreign trust has a foreign trustee in another country. They're obviously not here. You don't want to give them full control over everything you do. So you institute what's called plenipotentiary of power. And that foreign trustee gives plenipotentiary power to the trust enterprise, where they put you in the position of a passive trustee of that trust enterprise, so you can do everything that you need for your trust. So I would say use your trust enterprise as a passive trustee to be a part of your husband's trust without breaking that chain of command, to be a part of your children's trust without breaking that chain of command. Use your trust enterprise as a U.S. fiduciary agent to operate, so that way you stay involved.
Okay, so the husband's trust breaks up into different entities of the trust, or you have, does the wife have to have her own complete express trust with her own sole trustee?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. Now, both husband and wife can share the exact same foreigner as the trustee. That's perfectly fine.
And that was the question I just had this week. She wanted to know, does she have to pay for our foreign trustee services for her as well as her husband's? It's separate.
Unfortunately, she would have to do that. Why? Let's say one of them passes away. So the foreign trustee, one of them passes away. That means that person's trust then becomes immortal. It lasts forever because it was irrevocable. It will last forever. So now the job of that foreign trustee is still going to manage the assets in that trust. And of course, whatever deal that they've worked out with their foreign trustee, who cares? I don't know how much they worked out and how much they're going to compensate their foreign trustee for, but if they use one of ours, it's still a job that they will most likely still continue to do, even if someone passes away.
Okay. And they will also need the foreign trustee representative as well for that third trust established as the one for the marital.
Yeah, I would.
Okay. Okay. Okay, so we had a question because people are having such seemingly difficult times trying to figure out the website. They're trying to figure out what is the best sequence, what is the best way to keep track of the order of things.
Good question. So that goes into a question that I received, and this is a good time to answer that. So in association with your question, they were asking what comes first, recording the express trust in the county, or the UCC1 with the Secretary of State? I think this is a really good question to answer, because there's the community of the secured party creditor out there. I've seen many of those documents and what they do to no avail. People use it after they've purchased this packet, and they go to court and they pretty much get laughed out of court, and they don't get remedy. And it's simply because the truth of the matter is that the government put this process together, secured party creditor, and now everybody's running with it. There's misnomers out there saying that people have success with it with no proof behind it, or you don't know who that person is and you can't talk to them. But here within this community that we have, the 0%, we have people using something that is not the secured party creditor process, and they're showing their results. They're getting results with court, with taxes, and all of that. So this is a really good question. I think the order of operations is as such. First, you must go in order of county, state, and U.S. Department of State. That's the hierarchy. The county is the highest level of government that there is. They're bigger than the state. They're bigger than the federal level. The counties, in fact, there was a county that was first established in Virginia, and I'll have to find that article for you guys, but in that article, it was explaining that all counties have more power. It's because they have what's called a plebiscite. And if you are part of the plebiscite, that means you have your own trust, your own express trust, you're registered down in the county, and you're considered a plebeian. And you have the highest voting power over anyone that's considered to be a 14th Amendment citizen. So if you want to get to that position and be considered someone who has a higher status for being considered a representative in your state, you first need to go down to the county. And that's where we start. We first authenticate the birth certificate on the state level. It depends on who signed your birth certificate, but let's say it is the registrar down in the county. You're going to first authenticate your birth certificate with the Secretary of State. That will come back to you. Then you take that and send it to the United States Department of State for final authentication using a non-Hague Convention country. We suggest Taiwan or Sri Lanka. There's a couple of them out there, but go with Taiwan. Once authenticated, it is now annexed. The securities that are backed inside of that certificate of title number, it is now annexed from the United States. And it's in a state of limbo until a real lender or secured party claims the title. So you will then follow the rules of Minnesota Rule 220, where you, as the registered owner, makes an affidavit of domicile stating you are the age of majority and you are now conveying the title to a foreign express trust, the same way you would a house from your name as the grantor to the trust as a grantee. So you take the affidavit, you get it notarized, and then you file it within a local newspaper for circulation of 4 weeks. Once the newspaper company has sent you a completion certificate, take the certificate with your affidavit and file it in the county with the recorder clerk in the miscellaneous index section of the county. Sometimes they call it miscellaneous, sometimes they call it the real estate section. Either or, it doesn't matter. As long as they record it as an affidavit, you're good to go. So when that is complete, you then take the filing information, such as the filing number, the book number, the page number, the date, the county recorder's name and their seal. All of that information needs to go inside of the collateral section of your financing statement form. and make sure you put the certificate of title number that you received back from the U.S. Department of State Secretary. Okay, that goes in the collateral. Now, this is not a utility transaction. This is what's called a public finance transaction. It is also to be considered a non-UCC. That's another box you must check off, and you have to check off held in trust. If you select that this is a utility transaction, you just messed up the entire thing. If a company out there has selected utility transaction for you, you have nothing. It's completely done. I know others out there teach that, but please look at the rules and definitions of a financing statement under the UCC. A utility transaction, it only pertains for power and municipal utility companies, such as the water, the electricity, the gas. That is what that's for. It's for those entities only. And therefore, your certificate of title, it has nothing to do with utility companies. As much as they try to tell you that you are some form of a battery, like they say in the Matrix, and they're taking your labor that way. No, it doesn't work that way. The state, they do not see you as a battery, but instead they see you as a juristic person to control and collect taxes from you. So when you file your non-UCC in the county, your express trust declaration will go along with it, including an actual promissory note, where your express trust perfects. Now, this is the perfection of conveyorship. Okay, this is the conveyorship that you just did in that affidavit of domicile by making yourself or the trust, making it the lender, aka the secured party, and your juristic person, the borrower, aka the debtor. That's the order of it. You get the title with the affidavit on it saying who you are, who you're going to give it to. Then the trust becomes the lender by perfecting that affidavit using the collateral of that promissory note and putting it down in the county with the non-UCC as the face document. Now, you've got that recorded in the county. That's also going to receive a separate file number, book number, deed book or page number, and a date. Take that specific information, get the same form called a financing statement, put that information in the collateral in box 4, and this time you leave unchecked the non-UCC. It makes this a UCC1, a notice of lien. The non-UCC is an organic public lien. That's the first part of registering a real lien with a promissory note. This is what the banks are supposed to do when you get a house, but they don't do it because they never gave you a true loan. They gave you the presumption of home ownership, but they never did it. So this is your way out. The Secretary of State level is considered a notice of lien UCC1 by not checking off that non-UCC box. Okay, so that is the order of all of this. You'll see that in the course. I hope that answers the question for you. But please, if you're in the course, watch the videos over and over and over again until it clicks. If you understand banking and mortgage, how deeds and mortgages work, then you should have no problem, no issue understanding that you have to do the very same thing with your title. Think of your certificate of title as a deed to a house. The title is the deed to your body. That's how deep this goes. It's the deed to your body. Okay?
Okay. Very good. And that starts in the freshman class and goes through the sophomore class, those processes. Is there an active list on the website that will tell people the step-by-step processes that they can print out? Is there anything available to them?
There is. Once they go in there, they have the option to go into the search bar and click and type in order of operations or step-by-step guide. And there you will see a video of what I just said plus more, and an actual PDF printout, list by list. We put it in phases for you.
Okay,
so there's
perfect.
phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, phase 4.
Okay, this was a question I got recently. Can I have the template to an injunction so I could do it by myself?
If you are not a member, no, you may not have that, because you're still going to need understanding to go with it. If you try to do an injunction by yourself, you may do it wrong. Most of the information that we get that's inside of the injunction is coming from the understanding of your Bill of Rights or your Declaration of Rights in your state. There's also language from the American jurisprudence that backs up what's called irreparable injury. If you don't understand irreparable injury, then you're not going to understand the information that's in the template given to you. You would not understand how to serve it. You wouldn't understand who to serve it to, how often, and how to perfect it once you're done. So you definitely will need instruction on filing the injunction. It's very powerful. A writ of injunction is a Latin phrase for a restraining order against those who are supposed to honor and act on the oath that they've given. That's a part of the trust indenture. Now, I've just said trust indenture. Some of you may not even know what the synonymous word to trust indenture is. I'll tell you, it's the Constitution. And if you don't know what they're supposed to be bound by, how can you enforce an injunction? So it's going to take some study. And you must get involved in the courses to know what's going on.
Right. So my answer to them is usually that they would not want to do this. It's too much law for them to understand where to find the information, how to apply it properly, and then how to implement it and serve it properly. So I tell them it's just easier for us to handle it for you, and it'll be done correctly without error. And that's just the best answer I can give them.
Yeah, we can handle it for you. We get some information from you and plug it all in. And that does come with a Zoom call where we show you exactly how to file it, who to serve it with. And in case something does happen where you have to enforce it, that's going to be mentioned inside of the Zoom call as well.
So. Okay, and can I pay the 0% with the 1099 and or promissory note?
There's a lot of that going around. The only entities that can receive promissory notes are banks. They have the licensing and qualifications and permits with their local banking authorities to receive promissory notes and sell them so they can get paid up front. I'm not a bank. The organization is not a bank, and we can't do that. On top of that, your promissory note needs to have some collateral inside of it to give me security that if you don't pay me, I can go and collect the same amount. I can go and collect something that is of value of what I'm giving you. And if you're not willing to put that in the promissory note, we're not going to even look at that. However, we wouldn't accept the promissory note anyway. So no, we're not banks. We're not financial institutions. We cannot do that. 1099s, 1099 OIDs, all that, it pertains to banking institutions. That is something that we don't do. So if you're looking to have services with us, we will be here. Take your time to gather the funds to do it, and I promise you it'll be worth your time when you're ready.
Okay. And when can I claim exempt at my job?
Question. When can you check off or write the words exempt in line 4C on the W-4 is what they're asking. I would not suggest you do that until you at least have that trust enterprise bank account open. Once you have that account open, you can then go and update with your human resource department on that W-4 and put in exempt with the W-4, and also do that with the state form as well, so that the state doesn't take out taxes. Now you're going to be receiving a check much higher than before. And that money needs to go directly to the trust enterprise bank account. The thing is, when they send the money there, when it comes to being responsible for taxes at the end of the year, you want to make sure that you have everything else in place, such as you have your foreign express trust set up, you have that registered in the county, because let's say at the end of the year, it may be a year where you want to go buy a house or get some type of financing. Guess what they're going to ask for? Tax returns. And if you don't have them, you're obviously not going to finance and qualify. So I would much rather you file your 1040, even though they're going to tell you you owe, but that's when your trust would file a 1041 to take care of the balance that the 1040 owes. So the bank they don't care how much you owe. They don't care about that. They want to care about, all they care about is what you reported to show what you've earned in that taxable year. So you can update your information after you get a trust bank account open. Just know what comes after that. You got to be diligent and get all these other things closed out.
Okay.
Let me go ahead and read one of these questions here. How many more do you have?
Not that many more.
Okay. Let's see. Let's start here. Kind of on that same question with the bank account. This question is, if I have a garnishment or child support garnishing my paycheck, how do I stop this? Easy way to do that. The quickest way, if you are being compensated as an individual contractor or on a W-9, it's in your best interest to immediately update that W-9 with your contractor. There's a certain section on that W-9, I believe it's section 3, where it talks about exemptions. In the first part, you put B as in boy, and in the bottom part, you put TEFRA for TEFRA. Stands for Tax Equity Fiscal Responsibility Act. And a good indicator of knowing that you have that type of number, of course, you follow what we teach in the courses to get that number online for your trust enterprise. But when you look, there should be a 6 or a 7 after the dash. That is an indicator that you have a tax exempt organization under those laws. Okay. So once you have that information and you've updated your W-9, you're going to use the trust enterprise with its EIN number under the tax exemption laws of TEFRA, like I just said. Before doing that, it is wise to have your trust enterprise bank account open. So the contractor has an account to deposit your earnings into. Now, the only way the court is able to garnish your account is because you are using the benefits and privileges of the United States, which is the old age insurance number, otherwise known as the Social Security number. So you are going to need a trustee who has a clean record to use their Social Security number to open the trust enterprise bank account. Give an example. A young gentleman, he had child support issues. He used his cousin. He loves his cousin, trusts his cousin. Cousin is clean, good credit, good line of income, no trouble at all. Used him as the trustee to open the account, and that is where his monies is being deposited into that account. This young man is a commercial driver. He drives across the country, so he is considered an individual contractor. He has a commercial license, and now his monies goes directly into that trust account, garnishment free. So you want to do it that way. And once you have that set up, then you can go ahead and start attacking that court case, getting a motion to dismiss. We can show you how to do that. Or if it's a third-party debt collector, You definitely want to set yourself up to attack them as well for sanctions for violating several laws that we bring to their attention. Once we do that, it's just a matter of time before they drop the entire thing with that contractor. So therefore, there is no more garnishment. Let's say it is an employee. Some employers do not allow you to give them a W-9. They only want to operate off of a W-4. Well, do exactly as I just said. Get that trust enterprise bank account open. Have someone else use their social as your trustee to open it. And you can have your employer direct the funds to that trust account. But you are still going to need to submit a letter to your employer. Now, this is where it gets tricky. If you send this type of letter to your employer, letting them know that they're violating a lot of different rules against the trust, they may be inclined to let you go. Sometimes they do not want to do anything outside of receiving a court order. So these things will require a fine-tooth comb when you're trying to get rid of these issues. It's always best to be an individual contractor rather than an employee. All right, I'll go over one more. Is it true that we can access a Treasury account to discharge debts? The real answer is no. Can't do it. Well, at least not now. That is no longer available. And it has not for over a decade. Shortly after 9/11, the Patriot Act, it closed many of its Treasury windows to those that were operating in the private, as many people were deemed enemies of the state under a national emergency. So simply put, all nationals with the right to vote, they outnumbered public 14th Amendment citizens who were disenfranchised. How are they disenfranchised? Well, they have Negro, Black, White, Caucasian, Hispanic, Latin. They have all of those things, colored, Pacific Islander. All of that is on their birth certificate. So that means they're disenfranchised. If you want to know more information about that, you simply go to Google and go to a website called History Matters. You'll find a public law, a congressional law, congressional record. Keyword to search is Senator Benjamin Pitchfork Tillman from South Carolina. And he tells you the very intention of the 14th Amendment and what it was supposed to do. It was all about disenfranchising and stripping you of your nationality so you have no rights to things within the public. So if you're a 14th Amendment citizen who has a birth certificate without doing this process, you are considered disenfranchised. So what you must learn if you want to do discharge, you have to learn how to engage in commerce. You really do. How to obtain certain licensing and permits within your local state banking authorities, and how to have your public entities obtain bonds, unit shares, insurance contracts, mortgages, and offer them for sale to those banking authorities without the need of the Security and Exchange Commission. This is what you call obtaining a license or permit by your local state, avoiding avoiding the rules of the SEC by going into the Rule 144A. And that is a biblical number in the book of Revelations. So let's go back to you, Nancy. What do you have?
Okay, let me see. I'm pretty much close to my end here as well. How quickly after I get my trust started can I quick deed my home into my trust?
Right now, immediately. Excuse me. You do not need to have your express trust recorded, registered in the county or with anybody, or written down anywhere to do that. Just look at the St. Germain and Garn Act. It tells you that you can transfer your property from your name to the trust without causing some form of a due on sale clause. But that's what that law says. So do that right now. In fact, everyone needs to do that. Nothing should be in the trust. No cars. All of that should be directly in. You don't need to have vehicles or cars in your name. It can be transferred over into the trust, including your properties. You just want to put yourself in a position of the best perfect asset protection against lawsuits and against putting liens on your property. And the only way they can do that is if they do a name search and they search your name and 123 Main Street shows up, boom, you have a lien on the property. Now it's going to be 10 times harder to take it off when you could have avoided it by just transferring the property via quitclaim and putting a manufactured home transaction non-UCC lien on top of that to prevent it. It's very simple. Investors do this all the time whenever they're purchasing property from someone, usually a seller finance transaction, and they will get the IRS lien off by doing things like that. So please do that now. If you have property like a car and it's financed, how do you get that into the trust? Best way to do that, refinance it again, but this time seek to get a business loan for the refinancing. Don't refinance it into your personal name. Use your trust enterprise EIN as the main holder of that credit account. And of course, they're going to ask for a guarantor. So you can give them the social, but it's not going to report to your social. It's going to report to the business credit first. And unless you default, that's when the social security number will kick in. So please don't default. Now, once you've done that, you now have the right to put the trust name on the title when it comes to the DMV. So please transfer everything out of your name. Nothing should be in your name, not even your life insurance policies. You'll use your name and social security number as the insured of the life insurance policy, preferably whole life as a non-MEC, and you can set the Foreign Express Trust as the beneficiary. There's ways to really protect yourself here. Right?
Okay.
It looks like we've answered majority of the big questions that are coming in within Patreon and the general public. Is there anything else that we can think of?
Just last question. If I have a retirement in my social, am I able to utilize that when it's time for me to retire, or do I lose that in this process?
Oh, good question. Title 18 in the United States Code Book, it's actually against the law for the state or any agency to prevent your pension just because you do a process like this. When it comes to retirement, if you have money within a 401k, 403b, Roth IRA, or heck, if you won the lottery and got inheritance, they're always going to ask you, where do we send this and who do we pay? Upon retirement, you can give them an IRS form W-9, as we talked about in this video. Give them the W-9, put your trust enterprise on there, mark off section B and the word TEFRA in the exemption section. Have the trustee sign off, and that can be you, or it can be a company, or it can be someone else that you trust. Give the EIN number to it. Make sure you file IRS form 8832, reclassifying this entity from domestic to a foreign under that Foreign Express Trust. Go open up the bank account and then give the W-9 to that employer who's going to give you pensions every month for the rest of your life. That money will then go to the trust, tax-free. You can then do a distribution, send that directly into your life insurance policy. It's always good to do that because that's what the rich and the wealthy do. All of their money goes directly into a life insurance policy. If they invest in art, if they invest in real estate, all of the profits go into that policy, and they take out what's called a policy loan because the IRS cannot tax loans. So they live a tax-free life all the way until the end when taxes are due, But if you utilize the vehicles of a foreign express trust, there are no taxes at the end when you pass away. Therefore, all of the assets go to your loved ones, those who are considered your heirs, tax-free. Hopefully you've set things up for them so that they can continue to do this and promote generational wealth for the entire family. That's the goal. That's what we're trying to do. Generational wealth planning, estate planning, asset protection. So we did all that. So,
yes.
I think that was good. If you guys have any questions, no, go ahead.
I just wanted to make an announcement that those of you that are still calling our customer service line for consultations, we did just upload a consultation page to Patreon for members to go on themselves and book your own appointments. If you need guidance as to what appointment you think you need, you're welcome to reach out to the 88 number to get guidance for that. But it's pretty self-explanatory. Just read each person's consultation expertise in their description and make your decision on which you'd like to choose from there. Also, if you do call Patreon, we need an email, we need a phone number, and we need a description of what you need help with. People are calling and not leaving either an email or a description, and we cannot return any help to you without those things. So I just want to make sure that that was clear.
Very good, very good. Clear and concise. If you guys are not members, call that number 888-899-2262. I'll put it on the screen. 888-899-2262. Those of you that are not members, please call that. We have a general line, a main line to get some questions answered. But generally, that's going to set you up to talk with either myself or Nancy to give you those answers. If you can't find those, the answers to those questions on Patreon, patreon.com/the0%. And like she said, if you are a member, we have that booking page. Just go in the search and you search book a consultation. Book a consultation. And therefore you will see many different links where you can select and find the right link that gives you the earliest time frame to book a consultation with one of our trained consultants. We need to know your email address. We need to know your name. We need to know what tier you're in. And we must have the nature of your call. Why are you calling? What's the consultation about? So we can give you all of our fully divided attention into that subject to get you further in the procedure. Please don't use this opportunity to ask thousands of questions, getting you away from the main subject, because you will just prolong the process. And we want you to get in and get out. We really do. We want you to get in and get out and go be successful with this process. All right.
Okay,
So
last thing too, Avery, I'm sorry. When we do get client contracts, we need the writing really, really clear. We've gotten quite a few contracts lately that the writing is not legible. So if you have to type it up, figure out a way to do that, because we have been having a little difficulty trying to understand some of the writing. And so it causes us to have to continue to reach out, or we make mistakes because the spelling doesn't look correct on their end. Yeah,
that's a good point to add. Please type this if you can. If not, use legible handwriting. All right. Thank you. All right, you guys. Well, like we said, there's no class tomorrow. There's no class on Saturday. There most likely won't be for the rest of the month as we close out with these commercial holidays, national holidays. We know how people are, so we will reconvene and get back together upon the new year. As always, you can continue to put your questions in Patreon, in messages, or book a consultation. Those links will be open throughout the remainder of the end of the year. So this will be available to you. We hope this has been helpful, and we seek to see you in 2023, supposedly. Thank you, Nancy, and I'll see you as well.
And thank you, Avery, for everything you do. We appreciate you.
No problem. Thank you so much. Bye, guys.
Know that He loves you.